celebrating Mother's Day. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Dorothy Sterlogson. My guests today are mothers who are mothers beyond the traditional definition of mother or mom. Cindy Gabbard and Cindy Larson. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Being a mom is probably the hardest job ever. And when you add another dimension to being a mom, to being a foster mom, life gets a little more complicated.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Gabbard, tell us about your introduction to foster care.
I worked at home on the range, Big Sky Ranch, which was a mid-level therapeutic group home for teenage girls in Montana, about 6 miles out on the Sydney Highway. And I had been there for about 8 years, and we saw girls that were successfully completing their program, but really had nowhere to go. And the closest therapeutic foster homes were in the Billings area. So my husband Tracy and I made the decision, we had long talks and prayed about it, about becoming foster parents after our youngest graduated from high school. So in 2001, or 2002, excuse me, he graduated from high school in May. We went through the licensing process over the summer. We got our license in August, and we had our first placement by the end of August. And that was 19 years ago.
And over those 19 years, how many children did you foster?
Somewhere around 70. Some of them were as little as a couple of hours, and some of them were as long as 24. We had one child for 27 months.
And age-wise?
We started out, our first initial years were taking older, hard-to-place children, teenagers. Some of them had behaviors, a lot of mental health needs. But we felt that with our trainings, my husband and I, that was where God was leading us to be foster parents. We did take younger children. We were licensed 0 to 18, so we could take any age. And we have had anywhere from 2-day-old babies to 17-year-old children.
And what's the longest period of time that you had a foster child?
27 months. And that child went on to be adopted by a family member, like I believe a second cousin, was reunited with his 2 siblings, and last year he graduated. So that was really cool.
So that means you must keep in touch with your fosters over the years.
A lot of them will reach out to us. Many of them we lose contact with, as does the CPS worker. And so they'll reach out to us a lot of times through Facebook, and they'll message us and say, hey, do you remember when I lived with you? I think I was 11. And so we've started contact with them. We have about 3 or 4 right now that are still in the foster care system, and that we are either on weekly or a monthly contact. They'll call us. A lot of them were still grandma and grandpa. One little boy were still mom and dad. I shouldn't say little, he's 17, but it's just, they've reached out, and we have always felt that that part of connection is so important, that they always have somebody that they can talk to.
But important for you too, Cindy.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the licensing procedure to become a foster parent?
Well, when we were first licensed, it was, you took some classes, Child Safe, I think, I don't remember what the name of it was, and then you had so many hours of continuing education every year. So it could be anything from CPR and first aid, medication, any kind of training that might be on like attachment disorders, or working with a child that has addictions of any kind, or born into the world, or any kind of trainings that would better you as a parent.
Interesting. And Mrs. Larson, your introduction to foster care.
Yeah, mine came when we moved here 10 years ago. I got a job as a child protection specialist, and the hardest job I've ever had, hope to ever have, super stressful job. So my heart and my hat is always off to those workers. But after I left the department, my heart had been forever changed. You can't see that kind of abuse and neglect and not be changed. And so I wanted to stay involved, and at the time, we weren't in a place to take a long-term placement. We just became respite and emergency placement, so give other foster families a break. In emergency, you know, we might keep them for a night or a few until they could find a more permanent placement. And through that experience, we had a little girl stay with us for 6 weeks, moved on with family, and long story short, 2 years later, they called us and said, we need a permanent placement for this child. We're going to move towards terminating parental rights. And would you consider adopting her? And we said yes. So at that time, we were almost empty nesters. We had a child done with college. Our son was a senior. And then we took in a second grader. So and that was, boy, she's a 7th grader now, so 5 years ago.
And she's an amazing young lady. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, she is. She's just the kindest little girl, just funny, and she, it's fun to get to introduce her to all these things that maybe she wouldn't have gotten to try if she hadn't been removed from her mom. So we're trying all kinds of sports and music, and this year she's been able to do track for the first time. And I think she may have really found her niche. She has been placing 3rd in the last week at in discus and shot put. So it's fun to watch her really develop and find her place. Loves art, very therapeutic for her, but loves to fish. And it's been really fun to see our oldest kids. So there's 10 years between her and our oldest daughter. And to have that older sister that's way older and give her clothes and help her do makeup and fun things like that. So.
Do you remember when the first time she actually called you Mom was?
We actually had to have a conversation about it because she was very attached to her biological mom. And I had said she is like the perfect house guest. She'd been in foster care for over 3 years, and I said she's like a plane that just keeps circling, waiting for clearance to land. And she needs to know that this is her home. She'll always have biological mom, and we've kept that relationship open, but she has another mom and dad now. And her dad hadn't been in her life, so it was easy to attach with John and consider him dad, but it almost, I think, probably felt a little disloyal to her to call me Mom, so we had to have a conversation about that. So.
And she's comfortable now with calling you Mom?
Oh, yeah.
Is there a need in Glendive and Eastern Montana for people to be in the foster system as providers?
Yes, there is. There's a great need. There's always that need of somebody either doing respite, and we utilize Cindy and John many times for respite early in our fostering career, but there always is a need for families to open their home and their hearts to a child who just needs to know that they can be kept safe.
And so what are your responsibilities then as a foster parent, the different types of respite or permanent or transitional?
Yeah, so reunification is always the goal. So when a child is removed from their home, the goal is always to take care of any safety issues that were the result of that child being removed, so that the child can go back home. So getting into foster care isn't an easy way to adopt. That's never the goal. That does sometimes happen, but the point is to support the child, getting them prepared to go back home, helping understand some of the hurt they might have, behaviors. They're really just expressing needs that might look a little different than your biological children's needs. For example, if you have a foster child that has a meltdown at bedtime, your biological child might just be overtired, they might just not want to go to bed and stop playing. A foster child, it could be other issues. It could be a fear of going to bed because bad things happen to them at nighttime. And so you have a duty, I would say, a responsibility as a foster parent to really learn how to parent differently, learn about trauma, learn about relationship with kids that have had a lot of trauma and hurt and neglect. And so, you know, that training piece that Cindy just talked about is still part of it, but through ChildBridge, we want to really get into the nitty-gritty of what it looks like to help children heal. They've been broken in relationship, and we say they're going to be healed in relationship. And so a big piece of our mission is to equip those foster families to really help those children from the hurt that they've experienced.
Does the child come to you then with a piece of paper that says, "This is my past, please help me"?
No. It is really becoming a student of your child. And there's things that, you know, the kids they don't know. You know, we can't see their wounds. We can't see their hurts. They can't express why they're feeling the way they're feeling. And so you really have to become a student of your child, student of the children in your home. And it's a continual journey. You know, Star's been with us off and on since kindergarten, and I'm still learning things about her. And understanding what makes her tick and what, you know, as with any child, when they have hurts, where's that coming from and how can we best help them through that? So,
Not all children, though, in the foster system are abused, are they?
No, I think there are children that are, but neglect comes in, just basic neglect. You know, whether it's circumstances at home, being able to keep a clean home, provide the basic necessities. And that was one of the things that we really worked towards in our career, of working with mentoring the biological parents, and by mentoring, you know, working with them on how to parent a child, how to clean a house, how to do the things that regular parents do. And I think being able to mentor and be that extra person for the biological parent is key. And having ChildBridge come in, I'm not even quite sure what year you guys came in to the Eastern Montana. The trainings that are offered now are so superior. And when we first started off, if I would not have worked at home on the range, knowing about trauma issues and attachment issues, and how to parent a traumatized child, not only with neglect and abuse, but the trauma, it was really difficult early on to find appropriate and necessary trainings. And so sometimes you had to do a lot of research, and that was like before internet. And so we really did, Tracy and I really did go to the library a lot, and you know, if our first attachment child that we knew was a detachment child, to really dig into the information. So how can we help this child? How can we parent this child? And so when ChildBridge came into Eastern Montana, it's such a blessing to the new and the ongoing foster parents to have that option and that information readily available to them.
You mentioned that it's part of your responsibility, did I hear you right, as a foster parent to help educate the biological parents?
It's mentoring the biological parents if they're open to it. Some biological parents are very open to whatever they need to do to work to get their child back, and they're willing to allow us as foster parents to let them come in. You know, we've had biological parents into our home for holidays, their children's birthday, and we've always allowed the parents to try to plan the birthday party. They might not necessarily be able to afford it, but we would help with that. So to allow them to parent their child while their child was with us. And being able to mentor them, we felt, was really crucial to creating that bond with that child and that parent. So when the child did transition back to home, that it was a better connection, better bond.
Okay. So Cindy's been talking about Child Bridge. We've had you on before sharing Child Bridge. Do that again. Would you, Cindy, tell us about Child Bridge and what you do? You are a director in Eastern Montana.
Yes, so Child Bridge is 10 years old. It is a faith-based nonprofit, and we find and equip foster and adoptive families for children who have suffered abuse and neglect. And our pillars are very succinct. We find and then we equip. And I'm the regional director for Eastern Montana, so a lot of my role is the finding piece, the recruiting piece. We have a family engagement coordinator, Chrissy True, who is also a foster parent. She's had foster kids, the same kiddos in her home for almost 6 years now. So she's living it every day, and she is an amazing resource for all these tools of things to try and use when your kids are experiencing behaviors that you just don't know what to do about. And so with Child Bridge, anytime someone is interested in foster care, they're already doing foster care, or they're just contemplating it, we try to get them plugged in. So they just have to go to our website, childbridgemontana.org, click on foster and go to step 2 and fill out the application. Super fast and easy. There's no charge. We are a nonprofit, so we are faith-based. We get no government funding. All of our support is through donors. People that maybe have a heart for foster care but aren't able to foster themselves, but want to support financially those who do. And that's why we exist. So we've had boots on the ground in Eastern Montana for 2.5 years now. We went from supporting less than 10 families to over 65. And that sounds like a lot when you're thinking, oh, there can't still be a need for foster parents. There is. There's still those calls within our families. Boy, they're trying to place 5 kids. Do you know anyone with openings? You know, if you take a placement, that might take up 2 years or more of your, you don't have that placement available. So those people are they're full. They're not able to foster right now. We gotta have someone else. We've got to have someone new. And so we're always recruiting.
Is it beneficial when a family of children are removed that they stay together as a family in a foster home?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those connections sometimes I've personally seen where they are stronger with their siblings than even in the bond than they are with their parents. Sometimes the oldest sibling is used to being the caretaker and parenting, and if they are removed from their younger siblings, there's a big fear factor there because they aren't taking care of them anymore. They don't know how they're doing. So it's super important whenever possible that kids stay together.
And also that when they can't be placed together, when we've had a number of placements, one in particular that I remember was a sibling group of 6. We already had 2 children in our home, so we took 2 of the 6, and the other children were taken in by 2 other foster homes. And so what we did, with the help of Laura Mosier, the child protection worker, is we on a regular basis, because they weren't all in the same town, we on a regular basis made sure that those siblings were connected. Phone calls, a lot of times we met in Forsyth at the park, and we tried to do that on a monthly basis so the kids can be together, because that connection is so important.
Was there a happy ending to that story? Did the kids get back together?
No, unfortunately they didn't. Several are doing very, very well. There's a couple that are struggling, but half of them are in forever homes, and that's amazing. So just to have that, to know that you strive for the best, You pray and hope for the best, but you have to be willing to accept that sometimes that's just not possible.
What does your home have to be like to bring in foster kids? Do you have to have empty bedrooms and a facility that is conducive to young kids or middle school kids or high school kids?
I think the biggest part is you have to have an open heart and the willingness to open your home. They need to have a bed. They need to have a space of their own to call their own, because a lot of times kids don't even have that at the home that they're living in. Siblings can stay together, a lot of times in the same room. If you have the room available, you can take multiple placements. But it doesn't, I mean, making sure your home is safe, fire extinguishers, plug-ins, you know, the outlet plug-ins, just making sure that you have a safe environment and that you can provide what you need for these children. And I think a space of their own is really important, things of their own.
And do you provide that then, or are they able to come with a little bit of home with them, a bag or a garbage sack or some of those things you see on the recruitment
Sometimes.
videos?
We've seen children over the 19 years that have come literally with the clothes on their backs. We've seen children come with a few things, and we've seen children come with bags and bags and bags of stuff. And so we never get rid of the things that they have, if they have clothes that are too small or too big or whatever. It does go back to the birth family, but every case is different. And so we've always kept a variety of clothes in a variety of sizes. One of our blessings here in Glendive is Robin Robbins. I don't know how many years that he has done this, but longer than I have been a foster parent. He has always donated a space, one of his storage units out behind his business. And we have that we call it our foster care closet. So we have clothes in there from newborn to a teenager, all different sizes. Usually it's the foster moms, maintain it and go through that, and people donate things, and we just maintain that. And then foster families can go to family services, get the key, go out there, see if there's stuff that they need. So that has really been a blessing over the years.
So that's something that we as a community can donate to,
Absolutely.
Either clothing or dollars.
Absolutely. The one thing is that family services is really adamant, no use socks, underwear, or shoes, which you wouldn't do that for your own children. Why would you do it for a foster child? And I've always felt that it's really important that these children, when they come to you, already, you know, when they go to school, they have the stigma of being a foster child. And it's a label. And sometimes kids are really cruel. And so we always felt it was really important that they had up-to-date clothing, and they had not always the best of the best, but they were equipped enough to fit in. And we just felt that was really important so that you could minimize that stigma.
Were most of your kids then local kids, or did they come in from other areas?
We had a lot of local kids, but I would say that the majority was probably from the area: Sydney, Culbertson, Plentywood. There was one from Saco, Poplar. So they're really all over eastern Montana.
And how is the school system then? Maybe, Cindy, I'll talk to you about that. How is the school system prepared to work extra with these foster kids?
I think it's a lot of education from the beginning. You know, the files get transferred. A social worker may place a child and say, boy, this kid hasn't been in school for 10 months. And so the foster family is going to go enroll that child in school and say, he's going to be behind because he hasn't been in school for 10 months. How can we best help get him caught up? And, you know, we do have quite a few foster parents in Glendive, so I think they're used to having, you know, students just pop up all of a sudden, or kids that come to Head Start, and how best to help those kids, whether it's behaviors or academics.
And I think, too, my experience with all 4 of the schools has really been positive. They work with you, the teachers, you know, to get on that immediate contact back and forth, emails, sometimes it's daily. And I don't think I've ever run into a teacher or an administrator that hasn't been willing to do whatever that child needs to either get them caught up or get them maintained in school. So I feel we're really blessed with our education system here in Glendive. They really do work for the best of our foster children.
Cindy, these children age out. They turn 18 and they're considered adults.
Yeah.
You have been working on a program with the college for these children. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm a trustee at Dawson Community College, and when I came on, they had started a program called Dawson's Promise. And what it is a program that really reaches out to youth that age out of foster care, homeless youth, and unaccompanied minors, children that don't have family. Statistics are really grim for kids that age out of foster care in terms of homelessness, incarceration, pregnancy. And so we, as a college, are reaching out to those kids and saying, come to Dawson Community College. Dawson's Promise is come, get a certificate, get an associate's degree, and we're going to help you do that debt-free. And so one of the first things the college had to do was open the dorms up 12 months a year, because these kids don't have anywhere to go for summer break or Christmas break. And so we have people on staff at DCC that are part of coalitions across the state that are working towards homeless youth, or the people in DPHHS that know when kids are aging out of foster care, and trying to build those connections so that they know that there's a place to refer these kids once they age out. Some of them, the statistics are nationally that 1 in 4 kids will turn 18 and instantly be homeless. So we want them to have a place to go. Only 3% of youth that age out of foster care end up with any sort of post-secondary education.
So it's amazing that the college and you getting that to their attention is wonderful. The Gabberts have done this for so long, and they have recently been awarded some recognition. Can you tell us what has been awarded to the Gabberts?
Yeah, so it's quite an honor, really. So I like to tell people when I talk about them that they entered this journey as empty nesters. And that's the time most of us are like, oh, we got to have our life back. But they entered this really hard journey at that time in their life. And so this year, they have been awarded the Jan Elliott Resource Family of the Year for the whole state of Montana. So that is a huge honor and so deserving. All the kids they've had in their home, not knowing the outcome, just pouring into them, doing what they feel like God's told them to do, and leaving the rest to Him. And so very deserving and very exciting.
Congratulations, and yes, well deserved.
Thank
and
you.
A local award?
Yes, they were made community champions. Can't remember what month it was, but through the Dawson Healthy Communities Coalition.
Very well deserved.
Thank
Congratulations. In closing, Cindy, tell us how we can get money for your project to you.
Yeah, so we have a post office box. You can mail a check and it will stay in eastern Montana for the work we do in eastern Montana to Box 685 in Glendive. Or you can go to our website, Childbridge Montana, montanaspelledout.org, and donate through that. And also that money, based on the zip code of the person that gives, that money will stay in that region, so that money will stay. One of the things we like to talk about is, you know, people love to give things, and while that is needed and that's amazing, what children need most is a family. If they have a bicycle but they don't have anyone to teach them how to ride that bicycle, how useful is that? If they have new books but they don't have anyone to sit down with them and read them a bedtime story, they really need a family more than anything. And so that is our goal, to really find the family and then help equip those families to meet those kids' needs. Our little girl came to us at the end of kindergarten and had never had a bike, never learned how to ride a bike. And so that was something that we taught her how to do. But it takes a family to do that.
Definitely. Cindy's, Gabbard, and Larson, happy Mother's Day to both of you.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day to you, too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you do for our kids. It's very evident that you're a vital part of this community and those children's lives.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you for coming, Cindy Gabbard and Cindy Larson. And for Let's Talk About It, I'm Dorothy Sterlogson. Thank you for joining us.